Stathopoulos and Josh Phegan come together in an incredible podcast, Grow, Scale, Master.
An energetic approach to drive progress, master skills, build strengths and put the strategy back into rapid business and personal success.
Backed by real-world experience in rapid scaling to playing the long-term game of business, it's the story of all the lessons learned on the journey to mastery.
Be inspired, renew your energy and chase the future with Grow, Scale, Master.
Con, we always talk about these phenomenal brands, and today we're going to go and build a brand uplift story.
Right.
And I'll just give you, we talk a lot about market knowledge, but now I want to ask a very simple thing. How many real estate agents have got great brand knowledge?
What do you mean by brand knowledge?
So
about their brand, Ray White or Bell?
But understanding of that in a way that really matters.
Yes.
So let's say, for example, there's you would expect, right? There's a really expensive soap shop here in Sydney called Aesop, and it's around the world. But you walk into Aesop and you go, oh, hi, I want to buy some soap. They go, okay, great. And so good question, what's the soap for? Is it for your hands or for your body? Okay, great. And do you want something in a bar or do you want something that's in a pump?
Yeah.
And so literally, and then what's your scent profile? Do you want tobacco or do you want something that's a bit more flowery or do you want something that's more relaxing like lime?
Type? Yeah.
And so, but they're phenomenal. So before you know it, you're now buying this $45 soap. But the basic idea is that they're really good at understanding that. So when I go into most businesses and I say, hey, let's actually give you some tools. And that's what today's about, is giving you a tool to learn. So we might go and have a look about, really thinking about how good brand knowledge is. Now, why this is important is that when the newest team member comes in, whether or not they're in sales or property management, how do they tell a story to a customer about what we're about?
Yeah.
And this is not that we began in 1984. This is really the story about thinking, how do we demonstrate capability? So I'm going to run through a couple of them,
please,
and then we're going to learn how to formulate a story.
Awesome.
So let's say, for example, what's the highest sale price?
10.75.
Okay, look, mate, no need to fire so quickly. but the basic idea is that a higher sale price is really important because it goes to show capability, that you're being trusted at the highest levels.
Correct.
If you are pitching and your highest sale price is below what you're pitching on, tell the story how the vendor that's going to sell at 10.75 is the buyer at 15.
Correct.
And so that way you can go to start to think about what's actually going on.
That's right.
We go to, say, lowest sale price.
$300,000.
So that's about humility.
Yes.
So now what it is that we're actually saying, we've sold properties anywhere between 300,000 and all the way to the height of heights at 10.75.
Spot on.
So we're being trusted at the highest levels, but we're not too good to represent the best properties in each price range.
Yes.
Okay, next one is about the number of sales per annum.
1,821.
Okay, what we now think about, I was going to go with 2,000, much easier. But what you start to think about is that literally if there's 2,000 sellers and 2,000 buyers, that now means that over 4,000 consumers have been successful in buying and selling residential real estate with our brand in the course of the last 12 months.
Yes.
Now we think about the number of properties under management.
2.5.
Okay, great. So 2,500 landlords, 2,500 tenants. If you think about that, over 5,000 people have now been successful. Now 5,000 plus the 4, over 9,000 consumers in Greater Western Sydney have been successful in their pursuit to do something in residential real estate in the course of the last 12 months because they've had the opportunity to work with us at McGrath. So now
Josh,
we're telling
I love it. When do you want to start?
Okay, great. So we're telling a great story.
You are.
So that number of transactions, total number of customers served. But
can I just interrupt for 1 second because you're on a roll there. Now, we've got great numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So let's flip it. Mm-hmm. I'm working in a suburban real estate office, traditional, principal-led salesperson. You can do the same thing with this.
Of course.
Right?
So when you were at 90 transactions.
Yeah, correct.
It's exactly the same. And this is where the humility comes from.
Correct.
But learning now, there's some others. So how many postcodes do you serve?
Yep. We've got 128.
Okay, great. So it's a lot.
Yeah.
What records do you hold? Street records?
Heaps.
Block records?
Yeah.
And suburb records?
Yes, we do.
And heaps is not an answer.
No, I know.
So,
but like Monique Lejeune, right? She got the suburb record in Prospect.
Sure.
I think it was 2.465.
Right. Yeah.
But that was also the suburb record in Seven Hills, Layla Park.
Sure.
I think Toongabbie. It was a suburb record across 7.
So where's that documented?
Yes.
So that's a great question because in most businesses, who's the champion of documenting that?
Yeah.
And knowing when it falls?
We love data and we love the insights, and we do a thing that is the month that was.
Sure.
We also do an auction index as well.
But can you show me, does that have suburb records, street records and block records?
No, it wouldn't have suburb records, street records. It has the group.
Sure.
But you're right. We could add that in.
So we're looking for improvement.
Okay.
So
I like it.
So now think a little about the story.
Yeah.
And then, for example, how many open homes does your business do?
We did 15,000 open homes, met 66,000
on a Saturday.
We did 187 this week.
Okay, great. So Mr. and Mrs. Owner, we do about 180 open for inspections every Saturday. If we met 10 buyers at each. That would mean over 1,800 buyers.
Yeah.
Times that by 4, that now means, whatever that number is, you just make the maths hard.
Yeah.
So you start thinking 7,200 buyers that we've got to meet. If we sell
I get it.
280, that means that we've got circa 7,000 buyers left over. What would it take to get some of those buyers through your place?
Yes.
Would you let me do that for you?
So this is the art really, Josh.
Of storytelling.
Yeah, it is, mate.
But what you've got to do is that what I find is that literally a lot of people pump out these the month that was.
Yeah.
But then they don't teach people how to tell the story.
Yes.
And so what ends up happening
I think we might be guilty of that.
So the leaders are aware of the numbers.
Yeah.
The lead agents know the numbers, but people don't know how to tell the story. Now, you might be very minimal, where your numbers are not as big as yours.
Yeah.
So on day one, when you're starting at Parramatta as the takeover, you're saying, okay, great. Hey, look, we're really lucky. We've got 90 sales per annum, and over 180 people trust us in buying, selling residential real estate in Parramatta. Yeah. And you know what I can say is that more people are turning to us than ever before, because they actually want another choice.
Yes.
So that year you did 192 transactions. But that basic idea is that's how you can be really humble. That
Correct.
if you go from 30 to 31 deals, that's actually true.
It is. It's true. It's spot on.
And so what you've got to do is that literally, hey, look, our goal is to become the best in the market. And this is ultimately what we want to do to get there. And we would love the opportunity to go to represent you. So what I'm thinking of is that inside of most organizations, we actually need a champion of business knowledge who actually captures that information and puts that information in a usable form in an A4, which allows a salesperson to be able to use it to defend fee.
Yes.
So if you think about capability, you've built a ton of capability now, but you've got your lead agents, but you've also got brand new establishing and emerging agents.
We do.
How do we help people to have a story that they can tell?
Yeah.
So that when I made the decision to join McGrath, the reason why I chose was because of this XYZ.
Yeah.
And Con, I got to tell you, I'm really lucky to be involved in a business that we just get so much opportunity with all the buyers that we get to work with.
Yeah.
And in our little pocket, we get to do 30 opens.
Yeah.
And the benefit of that is that literally, even with just 5 buyers, it's 150 buyers, and times it by 4, it's 600. And if we sell those 30 homes just in this little pocket, we've got 570 buyers left over. Con, would you let me just get one of those buyers through your place?
I love it, Josh. And you can start tomorrow.
Right.
But what I love about this is anyone can be a storyteller. Mm-hmm. So you're right. When you've got capability like what we do, the story becomes easier. But also you have to balance that with the humility. Going, hang on a second, maybe this is a big engine and people don't really want to be a part of it.
And the way that I'd pitch against you,
yes,
some people will tell you they've got 1 million people in their database. Why do they still have 500 houses for sale?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we don't. We don't have that.
But what I want to show you is that literally, to me, if I have the opportunity to sell your property, these are the 3 buyers: having a baby, job relocation, sold last weekend.
Yeah.
So it can work on the opposite side of that scale.
Correct.
Where potency of information is more important than the size of how big it is.
Spot on. But can you teach anyone to be a storyteller?
Of course you can.
Yeah.
So in a book called Stick by Dan Chip, he says that people remember the stories.
Yeah.
So what you've got to start thinking about is that, and this is the most embarrassing for most real estate business owners, when I go into a room and when I get permission first, I say, hey, how many sales do we make per annum? Oh, 4,000? 200. and he just like, how can we have so much brand knowledge that's capable, but we send out the end of the month. Yeah. You got to teach people how to use it.
Yeah. So I've just taken an aha moment because we do this every week with our team meeting. You've seen it, where we've got our numbers and what that actually means. So, for example, this month we've already met in March we've met 5,000 buyers. Right, across, I think, 788 open homes. And we've also had 293 underbidders. But what does that actually mean? You're right. So you've got to be able to actually train people on how to actually tell the story and why the story is so important.
Experiences that rapidly shaped you.
Con, I think that the foundation of why you start a business is amazing, and sometimes when you go back into deeply understanding the founder's story, sometimes they just saw a better way. Other times they were really realistically trying to take someone out that had done something pretty wrong to them.
Yep.
And I always think about this, that, ultimately the great rule in leadership and management is that do unto others that others have done to you that you loved, and don't do to others what others have done to you that you didn't like.
That's gold.
And I just think that that's the easiest way to learn leadership and management. And I think about this, that, I was very, very lucky. We did a lot of work out of Scottsdale, Arizona, and and Phoenix. And when we were in Phoenix, Arizona, and we had that conversation, one of the things that we learned very quickly was to read a bit, and we got exposed quite a lot to Jim Collins. And one of the things that Jim had done was he actually wrote a better book than that, which was called Beyond Entrepreneurship. And he's brought out version 2.0 more recently. But in it, there's a whole chapter about like understanding, do you want to be common enemy or do you want to be role model?
Yeah.
And it was he had some great stories. I think it was like Reebok and Adidas and Puma and Nike. And they had some of these great fights where some of them were like so fueled. And at the end of the day, like think about this. Apple did that to the PC. And they didn't go after Microsoft, but you remember, you're an Apple and I'm a PC.
That's right.
Yeah, and like
That's
I'm
exactly
a Mac
right.
and I'm a PC series was clearly common enemy approach.
Yeah, that's right.
That we're better than you because of X, Y, Z.
Correct.
Now, what I think a lot about is that literally I had a choice. So do I want to be common enemy or do I actually want to be role model? So I thought, okay, and I was very lucky, and I'd sat down with Nick Dowling at the time, and Nick said, Josh, the thing that literally makes you great is that you're prepared to ask questions of other people that other people wouldn't ask. And I was like, what do you mean by that? He's like, mate, you'll just ring an author and have a chat. No one would think to do that. And I was like, well, I didn't know you couldn't, and that's that naivety, which had been maybe a new strength that I developed and wasn't even aware of it. And it's what great mentors do, is they help you to become aware of that. And I think that this is a really interesting thing, is that when I made the decision, how do I become a role model? So I never want to do anything that would put me on the front page of the Australian Financial Review for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And so literally, if I'm going to be a role model, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but in a good way, I've got to help people of all different types, of all different situations, of all different stages in their careers, and learn how to actually get the best for them and for their outcome of what would be a really good situation. And I just think that, striving to become that role model has taught me so much about how do I learn about different stages of life, different life events that people actually go through. How do I do those things to make sure that I'm seriously good? And if I can strive to become that, it's great. And in terms of the common enemy, I think that the mindset that I adopted is that if you think that I've got a competitor, you're wrong, because I don't want to have any competition. I want to be the best in the world at what I do, so that if you get the chance for me to work inside of your business, it should be a privilege, not a right.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that at an ego level, but that I want to be growing faster than my fastest growing client, to anticipate the challenges and the issues that you'll have in scaling and growing your business.
Yeah.
And we've got a very simple rule in our business that we do not talk about anyone in a negative way, and we never talk about anyone who might be perceived as being a competitor, because it doesn't actually help our best customers.
No, and also it's not going to help you either, right? I think one thing that's given me an experience that's rapidly shaping me at the moment is the simplicity of watching masters at work, and whether that's an athlete, whether that's the coffee, 3 Tomatoes is a local coffee shop down there. You can just see the care of someone that's actually a master of doing something, and that is, the 10,000 rule. Remember that? Who was that? Malcolm Gladwell, who spoke about that.
Yeah.
If you do something for 10,000 hours, you become a master or an expert at it. I just wonder how much time we're investing in our own personal development and looking at the blind spots of us, either in business or in life, and then how much we're investing to be able to make those blind spots, quite aware, and then, turn them into something quite positive.
Yeah. And I think that this is actually an interesting conversation, is that literally what we've got to do is we've got to start to think about how you actually rise to really bring things up that you care about the most and do something with it.
Yeah.
Something that's changing your view.
Con, the thing that I've learned a lot is about go all in on key relationships. So if I said to you, who are the 5 most important relationships in your life? And then who are the 100 most important relationships in your business? And if you went to a salesperson, a property manager, a BDM, an operations person, and you asked them those simple questions, it's amazing how many people are not really aware of it, but yet the technology is aware of it.
Yeah.
So Instagram, if you go and have a look at your stories, it'll tell you who's watching.
Yeah.
And that tells you who you're communicating with.
That's right.
And so the technology is already aware of that, but you might not be aware of it. And so I did a really interesting exercise over the break where I went through all 3,500 contacts in my phone.
Oh, wow.
And I then wrote out 350 people.
Yeah,
and I hand wrote the names.
Right.
Because then when you write the names and you really get there, you're far out. Who have I lost contact with, and who should I be involved with a bit more?
Yeah.
And just through the stages of life, they've had babies, they've got married, they've done different things, they've sold their businesses, they've moved on. But do you know what? They actually were really meaningful relationships. And I've started a bit of an outreach program where I'm actually trying to make sure that every day I'm choosing 2 or 3 different people on that list that maybe I've lost contact with, that I don't need to have lost contact with, but making sure that they're aware that they played a really significant, part of my life and pivotal part of actually helping me on that journey.
Good strategy, Josh.
I just think it's a really important thing. Work out who your top 100 are and just invest like there's no tomorrow.